Leading the show today, Auckland's electorate Tāmaki is coming in hot as one of the most exciting battles this election year. We have a fight on the right. National has held the seat since 1960, but could it flip? With us today are all three candidates. Welcome to the program, ACT's Brooke Van Velden, National's Simon O'Connor and Labour's Fesaitu Solomone. Welcome. All right, the longest serving MP for Tāmaki was Robert Muldoon. What's your favourite thing about him, Brooke?
Oh, I'd have to say Muldoon is known for a little bit of humour. But look, that was well before our time. I think the people of Tāmaki have kind of moved on from Muldoon. He won it 63 years ago. And what they're looking for is a little bit of change and a bit of choice this year.
Simon, favourite thing about Muldoon?
They love the way that he was on the ground. I actually keep a picture of Muldoon in my office, not to eulogise what he did nationally, but the locals of Tāmaki still speak about the way he was available and served them, and he's been a great inspiration on that front.
Fesaitu?
Well, I wasn't here at that time, but I've heard a lot about him and what he's done in the electorate as well. So for me, it's following what I believe in the policies and values. But, you know, he's a great politician as well. So that's all I can say.
All right, Simon, you are the incumbent MP in a seat that has been blue since 1960, but now it is in play. That is an epic failure for a safe, true blue seat, isn't it? Why are voters looking elsewhere?
Well, it's only you suggesting that the voters are looking elsewhere. Some are. They've always traditionally, some look towards Labour, some to Green and some ACT. But actually I feel very comfortable in the seat, but not complacent. That's important too, not complacent. I fought every election hard and brought in really good majorities and look forward to doing so again.
Brooke, voters have picked National in this electorate for years and years and years. Why do you all of a sudden think they want you?
Well, look, I'm standing for the seat of Tāmaki because so many people in the last 2.5 years in the local community have asked me to do it. They've said, look, we've had the same MP for 12 years, but we feel underserved. We don't feel like the person here best reflects our values, and we want a bit of choice and a bit of change.
Listen, Simon, do you want to say it to his face? That seems mean.
Well, look, I'm just repeating what people have been saying to me at their doorsteps. And so I think it's really important for democracy for people to have choice. The seat doesn't actually belong to National. It belongs to the voters. And the voters have been telling me they want a stronger local voice in Parliament to reflect their values.
Fesaitu, do you think you're going to win this?
Well, we never know because, you know, both of them, we know that it's a right-wing seat all the time since for 63 years. We never know, things might change. While they sit and fight the votes for the right, who knows, we might just come in the middle and take it. So I'm focused on ensuring that our voters understand our policies, value what we are doing as a Labour Party and as a candidate as well in our electorate. So that's what I'm working for.
Simon, you were first elected in 2011. That's before Shane Reti, Chris Bishop, Nicola Willis, Erica Stanford, Chris Luxon, all of them now senior MPs, all of them household names. Why not you?
It's probably because actually I've focused so strongly on the seat of Tāmaki rather than my own career development into, say, ministerialships or so forth.
Are all of those other people focused on themselves?
Oh, no, it's not saying that. It's just that they've clearly been able to get through, and particularly in opposition days, into senior portfolios. For me, I've just loved working with the people of Tāmaki. I've done it for 12 years, standing up, sometimes against my own party, on issues that are important to locals.
Yeah, could it be that you're so conservative you voted against abortion reform, same-sex marriage, voluntary euthanasia?
Yeah, well, look, take that first one. I'm one of 51 MPs across the House who voted against the likes of abortion. So the idea it's just me is always a bit fanciful. And secondly, no. I mean,
you celebrated the Roe v Wade overturning. You were the only one in the Parliament to do that. Oh,
well, I'm someone who has clear and strong opinions. And one of the great things, Jenna, is actually that people of Tāmaki love that. As they will often say, they don't go to bed wondering what their MP thinks. Because one, I'm very clear about my positions. And two, I engage with them all the time.
Your leader has said that he'd resign before changing abortion law reform. Can you make that same commitment that you won't seek to change abortion? Yeah,
well, the party's been very, very clear that this is not something on our agenda. I mean, look, the country is in such a terrible state at the moment that actually the priorities for us is clearly everything from the cost of living to crime.
Fesaitu, how would you have voted on abortion?
I would have voted, I would support the vote because I believe in choice. And for me, as a rainbow woman, it's always been about choice for me. Regardless of whether I was brought up as in the faith as a Christian, I believe that people have a choice to make for themselves, and that's a choice that we want to support. And for me, it's always about supporting what people want and giving them the opportunity, because we don't know the circumstances that surround many people. And we are not the judge, I guess, and for me, it's enabling people to have that voice for themselves.
Brooke, this is one of the most conservative seats in the country. Is Simon right? People want a Conservative MP?
Oh, look, when you look at even the end-of-life choice bill, vast majority of people within Tāmaki voted for choice. And that's something I believe in too, and I share the values of people of Tāmaki. I'm pro-choice when it comes... I am a Liberal. I believe in bodily autonomy for women. I believe in choice in all aspects of our lives so we can live the most fulfilling life for us. And I'm really proud of the work that I did to actually help write the End of Life Choice Act when I was working for David Seymour down in Parliament. There's a lot of people in our community who come up and say, thank you for doing that, because I've got family members who have used it, or I've seen a really terrible death. And for me, it's important that we give people choice and that we reflect those values in the community.
Your party also voted against the safe zones outside abortion clinics. Would you look to repeal those safe zones if you were in government?
Look, I'm not looking to repeal those safe zones in government. I think it's really important that we listen to the community. And the community are actually saying we do have a right to have our opinion, but I also think we have a right to safe access to medical services, where the government says women have the right and ability to choose an abortion if that's what's needed in their life for them and their family at that time, that people are able to access that choice without coming into harm.
OK, let's talk about housing. Brooke, you announced your candidacy in April when those housing intensification rules were supported by National and were also deeply unpopular in the Tāmaki electorate. Now National's flip-flopped and doesn't support those housing intensification rules. Have you lost your point of difference?
No, not at all. Our point of difference in the Act is that we want to make sure that we have safer streets. We want to make sure that we have a thriving economy. But if we're talking specifically about housing, look, I want younger people to have an affordable home to live in. But the policy that National and Labor put through for three-story houses wasn't going to build any more homes. It was just going to build them in communities where we didn't have the infrastructure for them. So we actually listened to local council, builders, architects, designers who said, this policy is not going to work, but it will just cause chaos, especially in Tāmaki where we have 100-year-old pipes.
Right.
And intensification without the infrastructure is just not going to work.
OK, Simon, your electorate has some of the most expensive housing in the country.
But
some of those houses would be sold off to foreign buyers under your new tax plan. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I am comfortable with that actually, because New Zealand needs foreign investment, and if allowing people to buy a home over $2 million and actually paying a tax, for a lot of people they are comfortable with that. There are some who don't understand it, and that's my job as I'm out and about to explain it. But I think really importantly too, Jenna, it would be a misrepresentation to think of Tāmaki as only the big wealthy houses. As Fasaitu and I know, Glen Innes is part of our electorate. It's a really key part of our community.
Yep.
In some places, actually, it's some of the worst poverty in the country, and that's one of my roles as a local MP, to have a foot, if you will, in both those camps.
Yeah, so let's talk about the people in Glen Innes. Housing, Labor, Kiwi Build failure, emergency housing crisis, state housing waitlist is out of control. How can we trust what Labor says on housing?
Well, I must say Labor has delivered over 12,000 homes, public homes to our people. Tāmaki is one of those areas. Glen Innes, not just Glen Innes, but we look at Glendowie, we also have those homes being built in Meadowbank. So we need those homes for our people. We also need to focus as well on first home buyers, and that's why we're against any foreign buyers, as you mentioned. It's important for us to help our New Zealand families to get into their first home, but it's also important to recognise as well, in an area like ours, we need all the support. Housing is important, but also not only, when we talk about housing, we have to remember that there are people who are also renting as well, and that's what Labour is all about. We're protecting renters as well, but we're also ensuring that our people can get into first home buying as well. Tāmaki Regeneration Project has been really helpful in that sense, that we put our families back into homes. But we need warmer homes, and that's what we're providing, better facilities for our children and their families as well.
That's the irony of all of this. The Tāmaki Regeneration Program is effectively a corporate that's been set up by Council and the Crown and actually supported by Labor and National, and has been incredibly successful. It's when you come into other areas of my electorate like Meadowbank or Orake, where actually Kāinga Ora is operating at the moment, and it's going down very, very badly.
Brooke, is it still your party's policy to put beneficiaries on electronic income management?
It is if people end up needing financial support and guidance on how to structure their finances when they're on a benefit. It's not for every beneficiary.
Why do you think
is
that
important.
beneficiaries need to be electronically monitored with their income in the middle of a deep cost of living crisis? Aren't those people counting every cent they have?
Well, no, Jenna, I think you're misrepresenting the policy. We're saying we actually do believe there is a safety net for people who seriously need financial hardship. That should be there. Benefits should be available for people.
The card controls what they spend their money on, right?
But if there's a situation where, say, you've got a single mother who is on a benefit, ends up having another child on the benefit, we want to ensure that the money is actually going to the best interests of the child.
What is it going to otherwise? What do you think that mother is spending that money on?
It's making sure that money is actually going to people in need and that the money is being spent on the kids, because benefits should be there for people.
But what I'm asking you is, what is it being spent on otherwise? What do you think that mother is spending her money on if you need to control the way that she's spending her money?
Look, it's a belief of ours that benefits should be there to help people, but they should be there for a short period of time to help people get up from a terrible situation or when they need help. But if somebody is on a benefit and they then end up having another child on a benefit, we want to make sure that we're actually wrapping support around that family and we're giving support, financial support, so that kid in that home, make sure that they have rent paid for, they have food coming in. Yeah. But you've got to look at this. You mentioned the cost of living crisis.
You've got to come down to
People are really...
You've got to come down to Glen Innes and see these families that aren't going to be taken in by just simple policy statements. These are families who are struggling big time, who are doing everything they can in an extraordinary situation, and they need to be given some hope. Yep, we've got to wrap some strength around
Simon,
it, but there's got to be some absolute hope.
But 40%
all of
the
us
households in this electorate, Simon, earn over $150,000.
Yep.
Why do they need a tax cut when the people in Glen Innes need the money most?
Well, the people in Glen Innes are going to receive that tax cut as well. Our tax cut, that back pocket boost, is actually targeting the squeezed middle. So actually a lot of people in Tāmaki won't be receiving enormous amounts of money. I think Rachel and I will end up probably with about $10 or so.
Are you the squeezed middle?
No, we're definitely not the squeezed middle.
So you're getting a tax cut when you're not the squeezed middle?
We are at the peripheries. As I say, the squeezed middle is where it's going. If you're a mum and dad with a couple of kids, you could be up to about $250 a fortnight, which is fantastic.
Tāmaki, as I said, is one of the most wealthy electorates in the country. Are heads really going to be turned by GST-free fruit and vegetables in your electorate?
Yes, definitely. I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing, and I've spoken to a lot of families. It's a whole difference been made to a lot of our families, because healthy food is what we're promoting, and it's going to make a difference for them to buy apples and pears and any fruits that the kids want, especially for healthy school lunches as well. I believe that's something that we're targeting as well in terms of our families. And it's not just that. Labour's looking at family tax credits. We're giving them public transport as well, half price for those who are below 24, and also 13, up to 13 is free. So it helps families.
Do you know what your public transport policy is? Because your party's got this wrong over the last couple of days. Are disabled people getting free public transport under Labour?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
No, they're not. They're getting half price. Climate. Tāmaki is a coastal electorate. Brooke Act wants out of the government's climate plan, but will you commit to our obligations, to the 2030 obligations under the Paris Agreement?
Look, what I'm an environmentalist, and I do want to see action on climate change. What I don't agree with are government policies at the moment where we spend billions of dollars, but we don't actually reduce emissions. That's what I'm opposed to. Remember, I used to vote Green. This is why I got into politics. I want to leave the world a better place.
2030?
What I'd like to see, well, I don't think it's a policy that could actually happen in 2030.
Because if we don't hit it, it's going to cost us billions of dollars.
No, I think what I think we need are proper environmental standards and policies that will actually reduce emissions. At the moment, we've got the Zero Carbon Act. It just paints people as bad or good and says that the climate change minister has a lot of power over who should be taxed and who should be subsidised. I think that's wrong. I think we've got to look at new technology, new innovation, helping farmers and the economy at the same time. So you think of things like ryegrasses, which could be planted in New Zealand soil, which could reduce methane production in cows by up to 30%.
It's an international agreement that we've signed up to, and we're going to get basically fined if we don't do it. National, will you do it?
We are committed to that. We're committed to the 2050 targets as well. We're committed to obviously looking at the science, but we're on the ground now. I mean, this is a Tāmaki debate. So, you know, if you're in where I live in St Heliers, you're seeing the seagrasses come back because actually work's being done. Ngāti Whātua o Aorake have done amazing jobs in our Kāhu Bay, firstly clearing out the boats, which I was very supportive of, and dropping in tens of thousands of mussels to clean the water. And we've just passed a law in Parliament, and, you know, kudos to Labour, around more protection in the Hauraki Gulf. But I'm certainly local MP saying more needs to be done. And these are the real things now, not just talk.
Fesaitu, your Finance Minister didn't even give James Shaw a heads up that he was going to raid the Climate Emergency Response Fund of $236 million. Can we trust Labour on the climate?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're all for it. We support it. He was advised later on, and I know it's a decision that he welcomed as well, even though he was not advised earlier on.
James Shaw welcomed the climate fund being raided.
No, he actually agreed in terms of that. That's a decision that Labour did, and they had to do that in terms of expenses.
We might have to bring James in.
I think it might beg to differ on that one.
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, he accepts the fact that they had to make a decision based on that. And as a minister, he knows that it's needed the most, but we are focusing on other things. And especially for Tāmaki, the government has put some money to finish the projects that we started off, you know, having all that push to have our people walk and ride their bikes and, you know, walk. That's important for us as in terms of the green environment. Yeah.
OK, I want to play a quick fire round of keep or scrap policies. Ready? Fees free.
Scrap.
Keep.
Keep.
Food in schools.
Scrap.
Keep.
Keep.
Super fund contributions.
Oh, pause.
I think we want to restart them when we can.
They're already started, so are you going to pause them?
Sorry?
We're currently contributing to the super fund. Are you going to pause them?
Oh, I thought, no, the National had a suggestion at one point, I think, of trying to pull them back, if I recall. So.
Keep.
And first home grant.
Oh, scrap.
Keep.
Keep.
OK. Quick quiz. What bus would you catch if you were heading to Tāmaki from Britomart?
The 75, going along Remuera Road.
Yeah, 75.
That is correct. That's a local MP, folks. And now it's time for your
Now you've got to ask me how often I take that bus. But that's
How often do you catch the bus?
Actually, I catch it occasionally. It's more my stepkids and others that we look after that do.
All right, here is your one shot, one opportunity. You've got 10 seconds each. Look down the barrel of this camera and tell voters why they should vote for you in Tāmaki. Brooke.
I'm standing in Tāmaki to give people choice and change for the better. This election, you could vote to have more of the same or something different. People in the community are wanting change of government and a change locally for a stronger local voice.
Simon.
Ultimately, it's a two ticks blue. We need you to party vote national, and you want a national MP there at the table. And in me, over these last few years, you've had an MP who has served every day to make Tāmaki a better place on the basis that it already is great. But every day have served this community and look forward to doing so again.
Fesaitu.
Two ticks for Labour, I would say. It's important for you to know that the policies that Labour are here for is to support our people, the most vulnerable, but not just you people, but everybody in the electorate as well. We want to be there for you regardless of who you are in the electorate, and we want you to vote and have your voice heard come October 14th as well.
Okay, no one knows what 10 seconds is, but thank you all for joining me. Folks, those are your candidates for Tāmaki. Hopefully that was illuminating for all the voters out there. Stay with us. We're back after the break.